and welcome to the 7th series of Have I Got News For You, a programme now so popular that unauthorised spin-off products are springing up everywhere, as this advert in the Funeral Director magazine demonstrates. In the news while we've been away, there's a shock for Kenneth Clark when he's invited onto the Today programme on April Fool's Day. Just when he thought the Whitewater scandal was dying down, President Clinton is arrested at a particularly embarrassing moment. And in a Westminster pub, the Prime Minister is introduced to Gillian Tailforth's grandmother. With Ian Hislop this week, a man who left Channel 4 because he said he was fed up with the rancour there, a remark Michael Grade sadly misheard by all accounts, Jonathan Ross. And on Paul Merton's team, a comedian who's always avoided performing on television because he wanted to make sure his material was only seen by a small handful of people, which should have just gone on Saturday Zoo, Eddie Izzard. So let's march Serb-like into round one. 2 nuggets of news film per team. All they have to do is decipher the contents. Ian and Jonathan, straight in with the topical stuff for you.
That's the UN Forces, special assignment. There's Vera Lynn. Probably is. Oh, there's Vera Lynn.
No, that's Barbara Streisand singing to a sellout crowd. So that would be D-Day, of course, the celebration of which John Major thought would be a good idea to, like, erect a bouncy castle in Hyde Park or something.
Major proved that he couldn't actually organise a party in Hyde Park without it blowing up in his face.
The words piss up and brewery spring to mind, don't they?
Or country and run.
Yeah.
The government denies it's trivialising D-Day. They plan a dignified procession to the cenotaph, a minute's silence, and then a bugle fanfare as Her Majesty, dressed in black, steps forward to launch the Spam Pritter competition. In defence of the plans, John Major said it would be a very moving moment when thousands of Mr. Blobbies waded into the Normandy beaches. According to Lord Healy, you celebrate a victory, and that came on VE Day. I don't think you celebrate a landing. He's clearly never flown on Aeroflot. Paul and Eddie, what's this tale of woe?
Can I just say that I now know where the tub of lard went?
You're starting early, aren't you?
Paul and Eddie, a tale of woe for you.
The Invisible Man's had a relapse. That's him now, he's better now. Oh, I don't know what that is.
It's David Mellor.
Yes, yeah, it was, I know the story.
Excellent.
A man with an immense moustache who was unfortunate. He was too old, apparently, according to things, for bad. I know what I'm saying.
Apparently it's just like Sky News.
He's over 65, so he's not allowed to have physiotherapy, and he's got chronic arthritis, and he's just supposed to have a large moustache. He's got an immense moustache. It's a brilliant moustache. I think it's called Mr. Moustache, and it's a brilliant moustache. And he should get, you know, it's like, because he feels great after it. I saw it. He feels great, he says.
Yeah.
But he's not allowed it, you know, because apparently younger people are supposed to get it, so that, yeah, I don't know. Something like that.
This is the case of 2 pensioners, 78-year-old Fred Stedman and 73-year-old Johnny Gray, who were turned away by the NHS, allegedly for being too old. Especially harsh, as they've been on the waiting list since they were 37. In defence of age limits, Sue Marshall of the Brighton Healthcare Trust said there has to be some cut-off point. Yes, it always used to be death. The government claimed that the opposition had distorted the truth, and John Major declared that the Labour Party are alarming people. Well, I suppose Margaret Beckett's hairstyle's slightly alarming, but...
Not compared to some.
You're in very dangerous ground when we start talking about hair. He can't help it. It's a disability with him. You're doing it on purpose. Yeah. I have the option.
Yes, OK, thank you, girls.
That's all right, miss.
Says TV's Mr. Sex.
Ian and Jonathan, rather more of a success story for you.
Right.
Now, that's a batsman hitting the ball, so it's obviously not English.
And
It's a man called Brian Lara.
And he hit the ball very, very hard, and he got a lot of points, and
Points!
something.
This man just clocked up the highest test score in history, and you call it a lot of points.
It was...
He broke Gary Sober's 40-year record, and it's a load of points.
It was...
No wonder you're on Channel 4, that's it.
When he reached 366, Brian Lara surpassed Gary Sober's world record. When he reached 292, he surpassed Viv Richards' best score. And when he reached 47, he surpassed the entire England team's score in the third test. Lara is now eligible for a £50,000 prize offered by a British insurance firm. So after 2 years of letters and phone calls, he'll be told that he's not eligible for anything because an independent assessor estimated his score at 3. Paul and Eddie, something fishy for you.
Fish, yeah. Sea,
Smoke.
big
fan.
smoke.
My bar. Worse than cricket ball.
Oh, this is the mutant fish, because there's been reports of fish going, started hiring sports equipment.
I missed that one.
Yeah, you're too busy watching the cricket ball beat.
Poison, dying, death.
Poison, dying, death fish.
And big heart problems. Fish death, smoke, and fuzz on water.
Yeah.
God, CNN.
Fish, death, smoke and fuzz and water is not verbatim what I have in front of me.
Well, that's what the one I read in the paper.
Oh, right.
It's radioactive waste is turning, fish are mutating into different things, like basketballs and 5-litre bottles of orange juice.
Yes.
There was a clip there. Look what it's
Deformed fish in the North Sea.
Yes.
Humpbacks,
I
they
think
got.
that's probably what you were saying.
That's
really,
what I'm
wasn't it?
saying.
I didn't hear that. I heard froth, fish, sea, death.
Oh, you complain so much.
I know.
He has a loser's mentality.
It's a Greenpeace report that the North Sea is now so polluted with various forms of waste that fish are developing deformities and ulcers. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food denies there's a problem. We have found no evidence that fish are becoming more abnormal, said a large mackerel in a tweed suit. Which total codswallop brings us wriggling to the quayside of round 1, and the predictably depressing scoreline is that both teams are as even as Stevens can get, Ian and Jonathan and Paul and Eddie sharing a small but perfectly deformed 4. And so, as cucumber between cheeks, we now carefully insert our caption competition between rounds 1 and 2. Ian and Jonathan, this is yours to savour. Paul and Eddie, consider this. In the meantime, let's quickly dispense with the rest of the programme, turning, as we traditionally do at this stage, to the second round, and the dubious world of tabloid headlines.
Now he looks like Melvin Bragg.
Paul, something for you to reflect on. Thief takes a shine to his victim's cars.
Yes, it's very self-explanatory, really. It's this bloke who has the name of Colin Sad, who's been stealing cars. He's got a sort of passion for cars, and he steals them, and he sort of does them up, and he polishes them, and sort of waxes them, and sort of pumps up the pressure in the tyres, and then returns them. And he's just been sent to prison for 6 months for doing the very same thing. His name's Colin Sad.
Yes. I heard the name and the story, and unfortunately it's completely true, yes, for 2 points. Don't applaud, please. Absolutely right, Melvin. It is the tragic story of the Sheffield man who stole people's cars, washed them, polished them, and then brought them back again. The thief's name is Colin Sad, as Paul mentioned. Frankly, if you're called Mr. and Mrs. Sad, there's not a lot you can do for your son, but calling him Colin is hardly the answer. Eddie, not so much a headline as a novel for you. Our love has the scent of a new-mown grass and lilies. Not many people are lucky enough to have known love like this.
Yes, obviously, it's a love affair. Someone, Gardener's Question, Time Gone Mad. It's something about, I think, something to do with love letters that were discovered. That someone wrote to Margaret, Princess Margaret, King Margaret, someone. Alec Douglas Hume's nephew, his brother's dog's friend, Keith, who knew him well, and they've been writing, years ago, had a thing, and wrote letters with great poetry in, and this is a bit of it, and
Margaret also reportedly had an affair with Peter Sellers, who said that she was more adventurous in bed than Britt Ekland, although she did draw the line when he said, I hear you've got a sister, why not bring her along? Jonathan, yours comes from that austere organ of political correctness, The Guardian. Tax break for busty dancer after US judge sizes up her assets.
I saw the story. It's a very fine story indeed. There's a topless exotic dancer in the States who's had her breasts enhanced, shall we say. Large bags of plastic inserted for the entertainment of sad American gentlemen, and she then tried to claim it back on her tax form, and I think she got away with it, but the judge branded her as freakish, which I think was a tad unkind.
Her name was Chesty Love.
No, I think it was, wasn't it L.A. Bust? L.A. Bust. Or was it Melissa Mounds? I get all confused.
I think you're reading out your own address book, aren't you?
Was it,
I'm afraid Paul was completely right. It was actually Chesty Love.
But he doesn't get a point. He doesn't steal my point for it, does he? He's sitting over there with his foppish hair. He doesn't take my point away because he happened to study it in a kind of sad, lonely, loser's way and remember the names, does he? I mean, I got the story right, Angus. I mean, it's
what,
just
by reading it out?
lay down the parameters. Oh, no, I knew the story. The breasts were enhanced. She got away with it and just didn't happen to slip the name in before old Big Mouth over there blurted it out. And you're going to give him my point now, and you think that's fair, do you, Mr. Smarmy Git?
It's all about the judge who gave a stripper £2,000 worth of relief. Makes a change from the other way around. Exotic dancer Chesty Love for 1.4.
Yeah, like the name matters. Like the name actually counts for anything in this game.
Jonathan's very overexcited. He hasn't been on a real channel before.
Ian, a heartwarming story of tolerance and understanding for you. Thug's free trip to see movie.
Oh, this is a special outing by, I guess, a sort of social security outfit somewhere, who've taken a series of young offenders to see showings of Reservoir Dogs as therapy. And the idea is that these young thugs go in and see this film about people killing policemen and come out thinking, yeah, I won't do that. But Reservoir Dogs, which I'm sorry I haven't seen. I bet you have. Is it a very moral film? Because this is the claim, it's a very moral film.
It's very... I don't know about that. It depends, define moral and...
film?
Yeah.
Offenders will also be shown Mississippi Burning to cure them of racist feelings, and the latest Michael Winner to cure them of ever wanting to go to the cinema again. All of which celluloid capers bring us charging to the end of this second round, and the half-time score is that, well, Ian and Jonathan are forging behind with 8, whilst Paul and Eddie are trailing ahead with 9. God knows what round it is now, because he knows everything. But for those of you not quite as bright, I can reveal that it's time for our widely reviled or one-out round. 4 trusty, reliable individuals. Which one's the Serb spokesman? Paul, 4 leaders in their field for you. David Ashby, MP. Noddy. Sister Wendy. And Ernie Wise.
I'm glad that David Ashby has appeared. He was the man who, earlier in the year, much to my amusement, was quoted in the papers as saying that he goes on holiday with other men and shares hotel rooms with them to save money. And he's not homosexual at all, he just does it to save money, which I think is a marvellous excuse, you know, bend over the sink, we'll save ourselves another 15 quid sort of thing. Noddy's in bed with Big Ears there. Ernie Wise used to go to bed with Eric Morecambe on their wonderful television series, and I don't suppose Sister Wendy, unless she gets drunk, I would say she was the odd one out.
Is sadly the right answer. It is that all of them have shared a bed with another man, except Sister Wendy. MP David Ashby denied that there was anything abnormal about his sex life, and said that the incident had brought him closer to his wife. He said, I'm hoping to take her away for a few days, whips permitting. Case proven, I think. Noddy was always jumping into bed with Big Ears. I think Camilla Parker Bowles knows the feeling. Eddie, a fruity foursome for you. An orange, a banana, a raisin, and a durian.
That's a hedgehog. hedgehog fruit known as in local, when they get durians, apparently.
Which is where?
Kent, I don't know. People, names of people, you got Orange, William Orange. William Orange, Banana, Reverend Canaan Banana, who was a banana. Just Raisins the old one out, because it's MP Julian Critchley, MP. And so, Jeff, I don't know what Raisins is.
Yeah.
And they all are fruit. Except the hedgehog, which moves.
Yeah. Well, that's all we've time for on Open University.
Jonathan had an idea. I thought I'd celebrate that. Good. You said you can't peel a raisin, but you can peel all the others.
I didn't actually say it like that.
It's my joke, my joke. Hello.
I couldn't possibly comment.
Cameron, sorry. Well, I haven't been on telly. I'm not on telly now. I refuse to go. But the raisins something and the hedgehog, that's not. No,
The raisin something and the hedgehog.
You wouldn't put the hedgehog in if it wasn't. It's the raisin's the bad one.
I'll give you 2 points for the raisin something and the hedgehog. That's not. They're all names.
This is being rigged a bit. 2 points.
There are names. They're all names of political leaders.
Yeah.
It is what you effectively said, except for the durian.
Yeah.
The durian is a large spiky fruit which is prized in Southeast Asia as an aphrodisiac. Timothy Raisin was Home Office Minister and brought in Timothy Raisin, that's his name.
You're making this up.
No? He was
You are making this up. There's no Tim Raisin.
Timothy, I think, unless you know him very well.
Freddie Sultana.
Timothy Raisin was Home Office Minister and brought in controls restricting the selling of sex aids, resulting in a huge boom in the sale of durians. The Reverend Canaan Banana, the former president of Zimbabwe, got so upset with people making jokes about his name that he passed a law banning them. And at one point even contemplated suicide by slicing himself into pieces and jumping into a bowl of hot custard. Jonathan, 4 major cultural icons for you. Elvis Presley, the Crankies, Ming the Merciless, Emperor of Mongo, and former UN Secretary General Perez de Cuellar.
Paul might know the answer to this.
I think I do, actually.
Right, keep it to yourself then. They've all played Vegas apart from Ming the Merciless.
And Perez de Cuellar.
So he went under his pseudonym of Tim Raisin.
There was a story that Perez de Cuellar had been abducted by aliens.
That's right.
And
The story when he'd been abducted by aliens,
You can't just
and the others, and
there's a sort of group in America that think that he was kidnapped by aliens and sort of like examined and then brought back. So I imagine that there's some people who think that Elvis Presley lives on Saturn. There's some people who think that Cranky should be sent to Mars, so I imagine the odd one out is the Emperor Ming, because all the other ones have been connected with, they probably sort of think, oh, we saw a UFO, or we once went to another planet, or we were abducted by aliens, and the only one who hasn't claimed that is the Ming there, played by the actor Charles Middleton.
You know what? You know what? If you're not telling the jokes, you're a crashing bloody bore. I hate to get stuck in a lift with you. You run out the tier and it's like, do you remember who played Ming the Merciless in the 1925 Universal RKO serial?
Is this a man who hosted a programme called Fantastic Facts? The most fantastic fact being, how on earth did this programme ever get made?
Yes, it does grieve me as much as it grieves you, Jonathan, but I'm going to have to give Paul 2 points, because he's absolutely right. I'm not letting it worry you that you're 7 points behind. 4 people that you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. Mrs. Thatcher.
She's an alien.
Leon Trotsky, John Major, and Barbara Cartland.
Well, Trotsky and Merton go to the same barber. I think this is an ism question. Mrs. Thatcher had Thatcherism named after her, and Trotsky had Trotskyism named after him, and John Major had uselessism.
Is it after Trotsky got an axe through the head, he looked like Barbara Cartland down the bottom?
It is, yes,
It is,
So it's 2 points to us then, and we'll
no,
quickly on.
Have you chosen anybody yet?
You've chosen Major, didn't you?
yes, John Major.
Wrong.
Is it Barbara Cartland?
No, I couldn't resist
Leon
that.
Trotsky.
It is in fact right.
I thought it was him.
Is that all of them have devised,
Why?
devised a political philosophy except John Major. In fact, Barbara Cartland claims that she gave him the idea for the government's Back to Basics campaign.
That was a good one.
She fits in. Leon Trotsky has Trotskyism named after him and was eventually found dead with an ice pick in his head. John Major doesn't have a political philosophy named after him, although that's no reason not to put an ice pick through his head. Nevertheless, while Trotsky produced several important tracts expounding his theory that international workers should seize control of the means of production, John Major, in his defence, has produced the Traffic Cone Charter, which smart thinking heralds the end of this third round, and a quick glance in the downward direction, as Gillian Telfels would say, reveals that Ian and Jonathan are looking like a spent force with 10, whilst Paul and Eddie are thrusting ahead with 15. Our final bout of loin girding is reserved for round 4, our terminal missing words round. If you've not seen the show before, this is where the panellists have to guess the blanks in the headlines. If you have seen the show before, it's exactly the same. Our guest publication this week, from which 1 or 2 headlines are taken, or maybe 3, who knows, that's how exciting it is none other than the revered Arthritis News. Those with least lead off, so Ian and Jonathan, that very much means you, I think. Sober Scots turn what?
Turn bed covers down very neatly at night.
Sober Scots
Delightful answer,
turn
but
to
not true.
alcohol.
Sober Scots turn down chance to rule themselves.
Is it turned to opera?
Paul?
Suddenly.
I'm sorry, I seem to remember basic polite manners means that we should stop talking for at least more than a nanosecond before you jump in with your dull but correct answer.
I'll be here till Tuesday.
Sober Scots turn down whatever Paul said.
It is...
Sober Scots turn down volume when Boring Merton gives the correct answer. Isn't that it?
It is generally accepted form that once you've had 94 guesses, the other team can leap in. To opera is the right answer. Next, Major set to what for Bottomley?
Dress more flamboyantly.
Reshuffle.
None of
Lose
these
a
things.
few pounds and take up the banjo.
Enlarged breast.
Close down
Thank you.
rest of hospitals.
Maintain erection when talking.
Creates new government post.
Very properly, yes. Very properly. I wouldn't be at all surprised if that actually is the correct answer. I don't know why you put a question mark at the end of your little statement then. You know full well it's right and you're going to get a bloody point, don't you?
Yes, all right, thank you.
I just thought I'd put an air of mystery into it.
Well, it's not
Major
right,
set to
actually.
reshuffle. He's going to move her. Move jobs.
Major set to reshuffle, he's going to move jobs.
Okay, I'm CNN now.
I'll give you the answer. It's dash hope of promotion, which you weren't going to get. Next, Northern Ireland
right.
welcomes what?
Careful psychopaths.
Tourists who don't read the newspapers or watch television.
Stupid Americans with a lot of money.
Is not right.
New arthritis clinic.
It's not a bad guess. Arthritis care is actually the answer.
I'm very sorry, but there comes a time, Paul, when even you have to admit that the fact that you browse through Arthritis Weekly just so you can win what is nothing more than a dressed-up parlour game is deeply sad.
Can I just point out that I know these as well? I'm just saying.
Yeah, we realise that. And lastly, what could be sticky for Charles?
Camilla Parker Bowles, if he plays his cards right.
I think he needs to play.
I don't understand that.
Is it re-entry?
Would be sticky.
Same thing.
No, I'm talking about space. Large lollipop.
Sellotape.
Sellotape was near the answer. TV tapes. Paul and Eddie, your turn to be interrupted by Ian and Jonathan. Britain has more what than people?
Socks.
Logically, true.
Two.
Teeth,
Yeah.
Teeth or rats.
Toasters is in fact an inspired answer, completely right. Next.
More rats.
And don't forget there's only 10 points in it. Next. Princess Anne makes what?
Sad commercial that Angus turned down.
Is it a smell?
Princess Anne makes a smell.
Makes adverts.
Very good. TV ad, yes. Just 8 points in there.
TV ad.
And only 2 questions left, sadly. Next,
No, we're roaring in now.
loyal archer to get what?
Sacked.
Arthritis, say hopeful doctors.
No.
Oh, I've got Paul coming through on the ether. Possible post as Minister for Sport.
2 points, Paul. Is it very good? Sports Minister job. And finally, cabinet rivals what on Major?
Parked cars.
Current rivals have party on Major.
No, none of these
Heap
things.
praise on.
It's heaping something, but not praise.
Fish.
Odium.
Fish.
Permacetas.
Barber Cycle
Cadbury's
ticket.
chocolate.
Heap fish on Major is the nicest answer so far, but in fact pile pressure is what we were after, which I don't think we were
What did
going
you
to
say
get in a
heap then,
minute.
if it's got pile?
Well, heap pressure I would have accepted as an answer.
Heap pressure, there's no such thing.
We were never going to sue
It's easy if you're a Red Indian.
What if you
yes,
heard someone say
exactly.
heap pressure?
Yes, done. Which verbal equivalent to blind man's buff brings us ruefully to the end of this evening's contretemps, and the denouement is that this week's spotty Herberts are Ian and Jonathan with 15, while this week's valiant victors are Paul and Eddie with 21. So, Night of Passion with Chesty Love for our winners, and Night of Passion with Colin Sad for our losers. But before we drive the final nail into the Merton and bury tonight's proceedings, there's just time for a mercifully brief glance at our caption competition. Paul and Eddie, this was your disturbing vision.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Brian.
Do you know where I can buy some chutney?
Let's go and rob a bank. That'll muck up the identikit pictures.
Thank you. Ian and Jonathan, this was your risible image.
I had that Barbara Carlton in the back of my cab once. not literally had her.
No,
I was trying not
Smithfield's Market, please, driver.
On which surreal note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Jonathan Ross, Paul Merton and Eddie Izzard. And I leave you with news that following the army clampdown on fraternisation between soldiers of the same sex, the Irish Guards hit upon an ingenious solution. Sport, and there's further humiliation in the West Indies when Mike Atherton is clean bowled and loses his way back to the pavilion. And finally, claims that extra hot curry was used to fire up the Grand National winner are confirmed by the jockey who came second. Good night.